everybody, my name's Michael. Welcome back to the channel, Two Wheels to Survive. Thanks for dropping by. If you're new here, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. If you like what you're seeing, make sure you smash the like and share this video. Help with all those fun algorithms so YouTube will share this video and throw it in people's recommended feeds and all that good stuff. Help the channel grow. As you can see, we have got a beautiful fall day out here in the Northwest, where compared to last week, when you saw we had some of the worst smoke in the air and some of the nastiest air quality you could come across. We had 4 or 5 solid days of good heavy rain. Just changed the weather, knocked all that out of the sky. Hopefully helped the firefighters get out in front of some of the bigger fires, start to get all that stuff under control. Anyways, I thought while we were out riding around today, I'd take a moment, a little bit of time, and share my story, let you get to know me a little bit, let you get to know her. We can start with her. She is a 2011 Harley Davidson Road King in Merlot and black. I love the two-tone paint on this bike. She changes colors in the sun. Sometimes she looks root beer brown, sometimes she's a really deep red, and because of the flake in the paint, in some conditions she even shows a little bit of green. So it makes for a beautiful, beautiful ride. Makes me look good while I'm out here. She is not stock. She's got a stage 1 done, so she's got an intake, full Vance & Hines exhaust, power duals header, and twin slash rounds in the back. Just opened it up a little bit. Not a ton of noise, but more noise than stock. Bars are off of a CVO Road King of a similar year, so they're a little bit bigger. The nice part is they're internal wired, so it just cleans it up a little bit, makes her look a little nicer. I do have nav on board. You can see it down there in the bottom of the screen. Color match tour pack for when we take the long trips, and that's where I fly my Mission 22 flag at. And I do have a rider's backrest and a sundowner seat on it. So she is made to go the distance, and the odometer will testify to that. She currently has about 78,000, 77.5, something like that on the odometer, between 77 and 78,000 miles on her. I did buy this bike used. There was already 14 on the odometer, but that pretty much matched up to my previous bike, which was also a Harley. So for keeping an idea how far I've ridden, it was kind of nice that the odometers were close. But I can't claim to have put all 77,000 specifically on this bike. We'll get there though. We're gonna put 100K on her, I think, before we trade her out. We'll see. Time will tell. It is the 96 inch. In that year they offered the 96 and the 103. This is the 96 inch twin cam. Had a 103 in my previous bike. Didn't have a great experience with it. Went back to a 96 inch and haven't looked back. Looking forward to riding a Milwaukee 8. I have put off test riding one because I'm pretty sure if I test ride one, I'm gonna buy it. So that's the short version about her. On to me. I am originally from southeastern Wisconsin, small town called Franksville. You probably can't find it on a map. You probably can't even find it on a Wisconsin map. For those of you who don't want to look that up, it's just south of Milwaukee, just west of the city of Racine, and just about 30 minutes north of the Illinois state line. Grew up kind of out in the county, surrounded by cornfields, cabbage fields, soybeans, all that fun stuff. Thing that was great about growing up out there is there was a lot of room for snowmobiles, ATVs, three-wheelers, and just general getting up to country fun and getting dirty. I did grow up camping. I mean, literally grew up camping. I think I was 6 or 8 weeks old the first time my mom took me camping, from what I recall, if I'm remembering the stories correctly, something like that. So yeah, been sleeping in the woods pretty much my entire life. As I grew up, that turned into Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts, and then further down the line, that turned into the Army. So just something about sleeping in the woods, I guess. As far as riding, I have been riding some sort of power sports vehicle as long as I can remember, kind of like camping. My earliest memories, there was an old Scorpion snowmobile collecting bugs and dirt just sitting next to the garage. Didn't really run, but there were plenty of rides during the winter with my uncles on their snowmobiles, and the trails ran under my bedroom window. So most of my childhood during the winter, I had that intoxicating two-stroke exhaust belching underneath my bedroom window all hours of the day and night. Major trail intersection in the field next to the house. Could take you 3 different compass directions. Just fed that passion for riding from an early age. Fast forward into my teens, and for lack of better words, Dad had a midlife crisis. Because I'm pretty sure that's what it was. But I came home from school one day, and there was a Honda three-wheeler in the garage, which was a hoot, and I totally understand why they went out of production, because they are about the most unstable thing you will find on the planet. But I will say, if you were dumb enough to hang on to that thing, it would go just about anywhere you'd point it. A few months after that came home, on a Sunday afternoon, we went down to the Honda dealer, and they picked up a brand new Honda 4Trax 90. I was probably 12, maybe 13, I don't know, right around there, 11, 12 years old. And that was, air quotes, mine. I rode that thing from sunup to sundown through the winter, got it buried in the snow, took buddies out skitching and tubing on it. Same thing with the three-wheeler, pulled the tube behind it, just had a general hoot. Lots of long weekends going to the Northwoods, up to the cabins that the family had up in the northeast corner of the state, terrorizing the trails and the logging roads up there. They added a third four-wheeler to the collection. Came home with a Suzuki Quad Sport. That was like a 250 or something like that. That was the fancy one. It had reverse and electric start and a rack. That was Mom's quad, and it was a family affair to go out and play in the mud. So, you know, more people out getting some of this beautiful weather before it turns to rain for the winter. But yeah, it was a couple of summers, just ran the tires off those things. Pull it out of the garage after I'd wake up and ride till dark or past dark, and do it again the next day. I didn't find blacktop for a while. That was still a ways off. You know, At this point, I'm still middle school, maybe a freshman in high school at the latest. And had a good old time. Added some more snowmobiles to the collection. So we had year-round fun banging through the fields of southeast Wisconsin and banging around the ditches and just carrying on. Got to be back half of my high school career. I knew I was going in the Army. I had wanted to serve for years. I had wanted to be a soldier. So I was one of the easiest enlistments a recruiter ever had, I'm sure. I walked in, pointed at a poster of an Abrams tank, and said, I want to drive one of those. And we went down to the MEPS in Milwaukee, the enlistment off at the processing center. I signed my contract and went back to high school. Yeah, didn't ship out right away. I spent 280 days on what they call the delayed entry program. I had to go finish high school. So we finished high school, graduated in June, turned 18 in July, and 32 days later was on a plane and a bus headed to Fort Knox, Kentucky to begin my career riding armored beasts. And let me tell you, they did not disappoint. They were like being on the snowmobiles and quads, but on steroids. It was amazing. I spent my first couple of years riding Abrams tanks. I got stationed out here in Washington. Was my first duty station. And yeah, they have to be experienced to be understood. They look cool in videos. They look like they're a ton of fun running over cars and shooting that big old cannon. Let me tell you, it doesn't do it any justice. You just gotta have experienced it. Then 9/11 happened, and right around the same time as 9/11 happening, the Army was standing up this new platform. At the time, it was called the Interim Brigade Combat Team. These days, it's known as a Striker Brigade Combat Team. It's a 8-wheel, 20-ton vehicle with big old honking diesel in it. Do like 70 miles an hour on blacktop and go through way more than any wheeled vehicle should reasonably be able to go through off-road. I've put that vehicle through its paces more than once. It's popped out the other end of some things we thought we would get stuck in. But yeah, my days on the Abrams was over. Kind of got locked into that Striker career. But there was a break in my service. I went home to Wisconsin. I had gotten married while I was in the Army. She wanted out. We went home to Wisconsin. I did land surveying for a little bit, and then I started driving truck over the road. And for about 2 years, I was an over-the-road truck driver. And driving in northern Minnesota, the UP of Michigan, and Wisconsin. Let me tell you, there were some days that put that show Ice Road Truckers to shame. For some pretty gnarly winter conditions up there along Lake Superior. She does not care that you have places to go and things to do. When she wants weather, she makes weather. So I did that for a couple of years. The itch was still strong. I wanted to be back in uniform. Things weren't going great at home, and we had agreed we were headed different directions, and I went back in the Army. Kind of picked up where I left off. Got back on Strikers. And continued training to go to war. And in 2008, I ended up learning Arabic. And then in 2009, I went to Iraq on a striker. Was there for the elections 09-10. We were there for what was considered the end of Operation Iraqi Freedom, and we were on our way out of country as it became what was later known as Operation New Dawn. So that was my uneventful trip to Iraq. Put a lot of miles on the striker. Saw it again survive a lot of things and go through a lot of things I didn't think it would do. But yeah, Iraq was pretty uneventful, even for being out the wire. At that point, things were winding down. Got back to the States, and we were immediately back on the patch chart and retraining, and almost 2 years to the month, I was in Afghanistan. I was deployed in southern Afghanistan in what they call the Horn of Panjway, and we went out and played hide and go shoot with the Taliban. It was a rough deployment. We wrecked a lot of trucks. We hurt a lot of guys. But when we got there, kids used to get beat if they got caught trying to go to school by the local insurgency. Then when we left, the local mayors were beating the kids and yelling at the parents if they weren't in school. Does that change gonna last? I'd like to hope so. I don't worry about the bigger political picture. That's the piece of the world I had an influence on. I gave those people a chance, and my brothers paid for it in blood, and the Army paid for it in equipment. And it was a rough year. 2012 kind of sucked. Maybe I'll get into some of that stuff later. But we came back. War took its toll, and I denied it for a long time that I needed to go to therapy. And about a year after I got back from Afghanistan, I walked into a behavioral health clinic because I had the choice of going to behavioral health or losing my marriage and possibly losing myself. And started down that path to taking care of myself. So I kind of wound down my career, and I was medically retired in 2015. Upon being medically retired, I took a job in supply chain and distribution here in Washington State. I work for a rather large company. You guys have shopped there, I know you have. But yeah, started there part-time while I figured out what I wanted to do with my life. And within 6 months had been promoted to full-time, and I moved into our asset protection audit roles, where I actually was inventorying outbound pallets headed to the stores, make sure everything was right there. And that's what I did for the better part of 4 years. And last November, so just about a year ago at the time I'm filming this, just about a year ago, I was promoted to an operations manager, and I've been doing that since. Never really planned on making a career in supply chain, never really planned on making a career at that company, but that's how it unfolds sometimes, and I don't regret it. They've been very supportive of everything I've been through, and very supportive of veteran causes and a lot of what I do. About a year after I started at the warehouse, there were some life events. I had gotten remarried. After Iraq, I had gotten remarried. My now ex-wife had some pretty deep scar tissue of her own to deal with, and I won't air her laundry out, but it was a pretty rough go of things for a few months. I even had to take a leave of absence from work, make sure my son was taken care of, and timing of that was interesting because I was about to put the kickstand up on a 7,000 mile road trip. Work had been good enough. They were giving me a month off. They let me go ride my motorcycle around the western United States and raise a bunch of money for veteran suicide programs and to raise some awareness of the 22 veterans a day who commit suicide. Silver lining to everything happening with my ex-wife at the time was she ended up being able to go on the trip when originally she wasn't planned to. And that was a pretty monumental undertaking. 7,000 miles. I think at that point my longest trip had been maybe 1,200 miles, like a 4-day weekend on a bike. And I just up and decided I was going to take a month off. So went out and did that. That's where Two Wheels to Survive was born. I shared that whole journey on Instagram and Facebook. There is a blog out there, twowheels2survive.com, and it has all my blog entries, the old school typed it in like a journal blog entries as I visited parks, and just kind of what came out as I rode through them. And that's where the name came from for Two Wheels to Survive. It was kind of twofold. And 22 in there obviously for the vets who commit suicide, and two wheels for the bike, and the additional to survive the war at home here. And that goes for me as well. This has become my form of therapy, sharing this adventure, not just of me riding, but of my mental health growth as well, the ups and the downs. Hopefully along the way it has impacted some of my brothers and sisters in arms for the good, showed them it's okay to be damaged, it's okay to be hurt. We're taught so long, for so many years, the Army taught be hurt later, suck it up, especially in combat arms. You know, mental health stuff was, you know, that was weakness, and it's just not true. You need those guys to understand that it is okay to speak up and ask for help. We ask for help in every other fight we're in when we're in the military. We always do it as a team, so we can do this one as a team as well. But I'll get off my soapbox about that for now. Just know that I am here. If you want to talk to me, you need to reach out to somebody. Don't know where to start. I can tell you how I got started. I did have to find people to talk to after I transitioned out of the Army. And I still see my behavioral health specialist twice a month. I check in with her. We make sure everything's good. And that keeps me in the right headspace so I can enjoy my life and thrive and live for the guys who can't, as I owe it to them. With that, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. I want to say thanks for coming along. Thanks for checking out the video. Make sure you do like and subscribe. Share this if you think it's worth sharing. And we'll see you on the next ride.